Good morning, everyone. It's 9 o'clock. I will call the meeting to order. Bill Waddell, pastor of the First Baptist Church, will lead us in the invocation today. Please stand.
Let's pray. Heavenly Father, we need your help in everything in our personal lives and our day-to-day living, and we especially need your help on a level that we're talking about here, city level. God, we pray that what happens here would be for your glory, because we know when you're glorified, God, it's going to be what's best for all the people. So we ask God your blessings over this meeting and wisdom, God, directly from you. Thank you. We pray, God, you protect us here, that you would guide us here, be with us here. We ask these things in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you for the privilege.
Pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Clinton, do you have any ceremonial matters, proclamations, or employee recognition?
No, sir. Nothing this morning.
Okay. Council comments.
I will jump in. I just want to extend my appreciation to the Gillespie County Historical Society for the tour of homes this past weekend. We had an estimated 850 folks that came through, 7 homes. The theme was a walk through time. We sold out all of the market preview tickets. And I want to thank Councilmember Watson for being one of the close to 700 docents that volunteered their time and came out and did that and showcased our community in such a wonderful fashion. I also want to just indicate that I attended the last leadership breakfast under the leadership of Penny, and want to thank her for her extended leadership in this community for many, many years as the baton passes to Jim McCula, who will now head up the Chamber of Commerce. It was a great event. Chris Canesi was present, and the theme was water conservation. A lot of good information came out of that. So thank you.
I just want to bring up something that we are apparently. I don't like the city to have to govern everything, but it seems like we've got some billboards on Main Street that have appeared on mobile wheels, and I guess we have to address that. I'm quite disappointed. Those 4 buses have been sitting there for a couple of weeks and haven't moved, so they're not even being used on weekends. So unfortunately, I think we're forced to do another ordinance on signage, which might include them, but just FYI.
Wanted to thank Jennifer Krupa and Caitlin Brazil of the Parks Department on a wonderful St. Martin's Day celebration. This is a new tradition that's very family friendly that we partnered with the Pioneer Memorial Museum over and had a small but mighty group of kids and honored Saint Martin, who incidentally is the patron saint of innkeepers and vintners. So I think it's very appropriate for our town. Anyway, that'll be every November 11th, hopefully.
I attended the EDC board meeting on the 17th. A lot of stuff still going in town. A lot of people still interested in moving here. Businesses, individuals. The one thing that I did see that sales tax for the last few months have been fairly flat. Still ahead of last year, but not by much. So we'll keep an eye on that. Yesterday, excuse me, we had the Charter Review Committee met yesterday morning. We went over what we thought was last minute details. We still got a few more things to review. So our next meeting will be December the 8th. Then we'll prepare a report for City Council, and that should happen in January. And then the council will vote in February, first meeting in February, to call for the election for revisions to our charter. And then yesterday afternoon, went to the Airport Review Board. A lot of activity at the airport again. Mark your calendar. Their Santa fly-in will be December the 16th from 1 to 4 p.m. hangar occupancy is still at 100% with 32 on the wait list. We have 20 out of possibly 84 reservations for the Eclipse next April. And we're still on target to sell about 500,000 gallons of aviation fuel this year. Jet A has increased the last 3 months, so we've seen more activity there. But that's down from our record last year of 537,000 gallons. So that's all I have. Anybody else, anything else? Okay. Move on to the consent agenda, which is the minutes from our regular council meeting on November 7th. Any comments, changes?
I move that we approve the November 7th regular minutes with the edits, minor edits that Shelley sent out last night.
A second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Those against? Motion passes. Item 7, ordinances, resolutions, and public hearings. A, consider the approval of ordinance 2023-20, amending articles 5.0, constructions, permits, and fees, and 5.50, application fees. Appendix A, fee schedule of the Fredericksburg Municipal Code to revise fees for applications related to short-term rental permits, development, zoning, and Board of Adjustment appeals, providing that this ordinance shall be cumulative of all ordinances, providing as severability clause, and providing an effective date. Anna?
Good morning, Council. So we're bringing to you today a fee ordinance that's changing some of our existing development fees. There are some fees that we have never charged, such as annexation, and then some fees that we're just looking to increase because it's been a while since we've done so. We took a look at several other comparable cities, such as Cedar Park, Kerrville, Bernie, and Marble Falls, to see if we were in the range on some of these fees. And so got a summary table here for you showing some of the fees that have never been charged and what we're proposing, and then the comparison. So like a conditional use permit, you saw several of those this year. We were charging $400 and we're proposing going up to $500 for that. A separate fee that we haven't charged before would be a newspaper notification. Those public hearings require us to send a notification to the newspaper and run it twice, and then do mail outs to property owners within the 200-foot boundary. So those are separate line items that we will charge, and that's pretty standard across the board for other cities to do that as well. So just trying to come in line and make sure that the developers are covering the costs, the expenses that they're incurring on staff. So one other section would be the short-term rentals, and the discussion with the of course, we've been discussing these for over a year now, and at one time talking about changing the fee, which was based, previously on anticipating hiring an STR specialist and a new code enforcement officer, which we did do. But that was based on not doing an inspection for every renewal. And then with this new ordinance, of course, we are doing an inspection for every renewal. So that means every permit that's processed will be handled by no less than the STR specialist and a code enforcement officer. If there's anything particular, odd about the permit or requires any other considerations, then that just means more staff time. So proposing new STR fees based on the bedroom, and then also creating just a flat transfer fee and a reinspection fee. And then, of course, like the creation of the special exception, which didn't exist before, so providing for a fee for that. The one issue that Rachel, I believe, is on the phone and can talk to a little bit more, and why this was delayed. We put this on a previous agenda, but then had to pull it because the state changed the way that we can do engineering fees. We've never charged engineering. Several fees have never been charged for engineering. And so we were proposing those in a previous draft, but Rachel caught that there was a state statute this year that changed how we can collect those engineering fees. And so we've got some kind of generic language saying that we will follow the state rules, but internally we've not decided which option we want to go with. There's a couple different options where we can reach out to a third-party engineering firm, ask them how much they would charge to do this plan review, and then essentially charge that much. We can do billable hours, meaning that we wouldn't charge until after we perform the review, and then collect the fees based on a billable hour for the engineering team. Or we could do a third-party review. So the language that's in the ordinance right now just gives us the option to do any of those. But staff's going to need a little bit more time to talk to other cities to see what's working, because it's such a new requirement.
I will note that Rachel is online with us, so she's here virtually. If you have any questions. Any discussion?
Anna, we talked ever so briefly this morning about the PUD park, for example. And give me some guidance here. This is an area I'm not an expert by any stretch. But the PUD went from $400 to $750, and I'm thinking specifically about the Muse. I believe that applies to the Muse, right? So that's 22 acres, 300,000 square feet. That's an extensive amount of work by city staff. Is the 750 appropriate? Just intuition says it's a larger scope of work.
Right, and it's a flat fee. PUDs are a minimum of 3 acres, and there's certain things that we're always looking for. And then our requirements to submit a PUD, right? They have to do a certain amount of work for us. So we're essentially doing a technical review. And we've never charged it before. Well, it was just considered a basic zoning change.
I think it's 400 on the comparison.
Correct. Yes, it was just a basic zoning charge. So, we're kind of basing it again based on other cities and what they charge. But that's what we're proposing for now, and then we can kind of evaluate. We don't have a lot of those. And then with the PUD, it's also a public hearing notification, so we would be getting the fee for the newspaper and the notices to the property owners. So on top of the $750.
Let me ask you, last time that these fees were looked at, do you know when they were actually reviewed or changed before Garrett was born?
No.
No, I want to say we looked at these back in, probably even made an amendment to the fees back in the 2021 timeframe.
So it's not that far. I've got some questions about, and I realize there's some cost in doing these things, but like the short-term rental was, apparently there was not a fee, now it's $300, which is, and I don't know from a justification from the time it takes. The inspections are going to 75, but it seemed like, looks like we really hit the short-term rentals hard. I guess my best look at it. The variance application went up twice as much. So some of that is the justification how we're coming up with that. And I realize there's some fees that what's the verification letter? It's $50, but down below it says $250. So I'm not sure what that. Or is that the vesting determination?
Right, those are different. So the STRs, we have charged fees before. The only new one would be a flat fee for the transfer. There's just never been a transfer fee.
Which is now
$300.
Yeah, it was nothing before, so it seemed like a high jump there.
But yeah. And since we allow a transfer, and it obviously creates staff work, and it's going to create an inspection. So the inspection fee is built into that application fee. That is a re-inspection. You wouldn't believe how many times we have to go out and re-inspect an STR. It fails the first time, second time. And so the new ordinance says if you fail twice, then you're starting over.
Let me ask you just so that's now yearly, right?
Yes, because
so that's going to add $300 to these STRs yearly.
This is an STR transfer of ownership.
Only if they
To
transfer.
transfer, I thought.
So
Transfer is $300.
correct.
Well, that's right. That's right. That's a different thing to the inspections. I just, and I know we did get this a few days ago, but and you shared with us at the beginning that you did compared to the other cities, although we're probably the leader of short-term rentals anyway. But to compare, I just want to make sure we're not overindulging ourselves on that.
Do we have like the average nightly rate for STRs?
I think it varies. I mean, an efficiency is probably 115. Those
So
five
this is-
bedrooms are probably 1,000.
This is like 1/2 to 1 night. But I mean, just as a comparison, but also the staff work that has gone into this for so long and the added staff. I think it makes sense to look at this. And this, I mean, this is user fee. You know, you don't have to pay this unless you are, you know, wanting to change your zoning or wanting to amend your PUD or whatever it is. So I didn't have any issues with anything, and I appreciate y'all looking at similar towns. My one thing was on the effective date. Is it going to be looks at the ordinance that it would be effective today? So does that mean, you know, are y'all ready to go so that someone applies for something tomorrow, they would have the new, or is it, do we need to have it effective to give y'all time to get up to speed?
That's a good question. So the software that we use for budgeting is Springbrook, and so staff has kind of pre-populated those. I would say, given the STR ordinance being an effective date of January 1, I would recommend that those fees be delayed to go, because that was a lot of the impact too, right? These fees are responding to the impact of that ordinance. So if that portion were to be delayed to January 1st, or at this point, if they're all delayed to January 1st, that's okay. I mean, we are right now it's more on the development side. There's things that we just haven't charged for, but another month won't really make or break.
So I have a question for Rachel if you're there. This is Randy Briley, and I do disclosure on the short-term rental, so I want to make sure I'm operating properly here. Because the STR is within the body of a larger document that addresses development fees and other things, am I able to further comment on this and vote on this? I did reach out to Mick this morning without a response.
That's a great question, Councilman. Let's see. First of all, can you all hear me? Just making sure.
Yes.
Yes.
I'm a little concerned about rushing this thing in without some transparency, letting people. I realize we're going to have comments, but they have a right to. So part of my thought on this is that I don't want to rush this thing in and do one meeting and approve it without hearing some comments.
We do have one verbal comment, so we'll get to that in just a moment.
So Rachel, are you okay with me proceeding, or should I hold on?
I'm sorry. Can you give me one moment? I'm going to pull up arrangements real quick.
Sorry.
While we're sitting here, I'm just looking, and I see that on the comparison, it shows that the newspaper notification is 100, but in the ordinance, it's 150. I know ordinance trumps this, but, and then in the ordinance in section 5.504B, it says 300.00 instead of 300 to match all the other things.
So in the annexation, of course, that's voluntary. That's gone from 0 to 750. Is there a lot of work in that?
Yes, sir.
And of course, we don't, I guess, have a lot of those either.
Correct.
Councilman Riley, on reviewing our previous guidance, I do think that you'll need to recuse yourself for this portion of the meeting. I'm sorry for not catching that earlier.
So I'll make one comment, not specific to the body of the document, but I would like to see this broken out separately. If you're inserting STR language or something that governs STRs, that means I'm recused from looking at variances, vesting determination, zoning verification, and other bodies of work, which I should have a voice on. So I would say I object to how this is structured. So with that, I'll recuse.
Just a couple of points to add. I think this might address some of Tony's concerns. First of all, as we're looking at new sources of revenue in the general fund, this is a general fund funded department. They're competing for the same dollars that the police department, fire EMS are competing for. So we're looking at this from a very conservative standpoint. Again, how much staff time does it take to do a lot of these things that support the department? So the dollars that we'll be charging for managing development can't be more than what is needed to support the department function. On the STR side, and if you go back to 2022, we got very specific about this in terms of employees and time and all of the functions that people that are managing STRs perform. Our city attorney then, Mick, has also indicated that we can't charge a fee greater than what we need to support that function. So we're not banking cash, but at the same time, this is a source of revenue from developers that does not impact our citizens in Fredericksburg. As you look at the comparison cities, we're pretty much in line. Some of these things are pretty new. We just talked about annexation. I can think of one third-party review of an apartment complex, not one of the bigger ones, just to give you an idea. The cost for that review was $18,000. So it does take a lot of time. It does take a lot of attention. One other item I wanted to clear up. This is an item that we've been trying to get on the agenda. We've had on the agenda for the last 3 meetings. There were some issues with the way we were trying to charge the engineering fees. We had to work with our city attorney to adjust that. And it just so happens to fall on a holiday week when we're having a council meeting. That wasn't intentional, but I just wanted to clarify that this has been on the agenda. We're not trying to, get it by on a holiday week or anything like that. And I'd be happy to answer any questions about anything that I just presented.
Anna, would it be possible, to Randy's point, to separate STR from this and have 2 ordinances and 2 fee structures instead of having everything in this one ordinance?
I believe so, Rachel. I mean, I think we could just write it separately.
Yes, you can definitely split out the STR fees. And I think, in fact, if someone wants to make a motion to table the short-term rental section of this ordinance, then then we refrain from discussing the short-term rental fees for the remainder of the deliberations, and we handle that as a separate agenda item on a later date. And Councilman Briley will come back in to discuss the other unrelated fees. If anyone is interested in making that motion to table the SDR permit fees to the next regularly scheduled city council meeting.
I would like to do so. Table until the next meeting, the STR revised fees as a separate item.
So is that section, I'll make sure I'm getting it right. Is it just section 5.450 STR permits?
Yes, and it would be section 2 of the document itself.
That be considered section B?
Section 2.
And I mean, zoning board of adjustment, because that will be,
I think we can leave that because the special exception fee is not tied specifically to a short-term rental application. It's just the special exceptions that require for short-term applications. So in the future, we could have different special exceptions that would not be related to that.
Tony, do you want to amend?
The special exception fee.
Okay, do you want to amend your motion to be section 2 that we're tabling for now?
We call it section 2.
Section 2 of ordinance
So
2023.
make that motion that we short-term rentals considered section 2 and that we table that till the next meeting.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Randy, you want to come join us? Jeffrey, you have a comment on the STRs. Do you want to say that now or do you want to wait till the next meeting? Okay, please come forward.
Can we entertain that since we just tabled the STR portion?
Should I sit down? Yeah.
Yeah.
I prefer that Councilman Brother recuse himself.
Okay, he's leaving.
You wouldn't stay here long.
He's getting his exercise.
Good morning, City Council and staff. Jeffrey Morin here, city resident and STR owner. I am on the STR Alliance Board, and on behalf of the 1,000 STR owners here in town, we would like to ask why the 200% increase in our STR permit fees. I believe that was increased in the 2022 ordinance just 2 years ago. We all want to pay our fair share of expenses, and as an STR owner, we want to pay the fair share, whatever's due. But we feel that this increase is not warranted. To justify this increase, we would like to ask the city to detail the expenses incurred by STR owners that warrant this increase. In this increase, I don't mind paying our fair share. And if you have some of the fees, I'm just talking about the fee for the annual renewal permit fee here, not the other fees that are associated. Again, need to pay our fair share. I know that police and code enforcement do not incur but 5 to 10% of their time on STR properties. So that is not the reason. And I'm pretty sure that's pretty close on those numbers. I know we have added some staff to help run STR operations, and that should be paid for. But what else is added to these expenses? And also I have a question, why are hotels, and again, I don't know the details of this, but why are hotels not being charged fees for this? Now we pay these STR permit fees every year. Hotels do what? Do they pay anything? We both pay hot taxes, hotels and STRs. Should not they share in the same expenses to administer these city administrative duties? Please reconsider these fees, as we think this is a major increase in our fees. And again, just talking about the annual permit fee. Thank you. And that's it.
If I could, Mayor, just offer a clarification. We
Sure.
did add 4 staff to manage short-term rentals. We added a full-time code enforcement officer, a STR specialist, a hot collection specialist that's partially funded, and an administrative adjudication officer. So again, when we look at the fees, we can only charge a fee. We can't charge a fee any greater than what we need to support those actual positions. So it's either, again, paid by the STRs or it's paid by our taxpayers.
No, but he does bring up a good point. I guess the motels are not charged a fee, annual or any kind of fee besides tax.
When they get a certificate of occupancy, they pay their fee, and I believe fire marshal does a yearly inspection. But right, development services does not have to do an inspection on a hotel unless there's a complaint or reason to.
Well,
But they're not in residential areas, and I don't know that we're going to debate that today. The difference between a hotel.
I'll also just briefly note that hotels and motels are regulated by the state as well.
I just want to thank staff for your continued research and looking for ways to take care of our residents and take care of the work you're doing. With the recent budget vote, times are tighter than before, so I appreciate this user fee. I think this is something that makes sense across the board. I don't have any issues with any of the fees on this current ordinance draft.
I'll echo Emily's comments. I think the fees are in line. We've been known for charging, not charging the fees that we should have charged, and for a number of years. So I agree, and I think the fees are in line with what we need to do. Randy, you want to come back up and comment if you'd like? This is on everything except section 2.
There was one additional one here.
When it comes to development, it doesn't look, of course, we talked about the annexation, and that's understandable. It does require a lot of work.
Just a general comment back to making sure we are covering city staff time and effort and energy. The other development fees, do you feel like those are in line, that properly cover, in to city manager's point, this isn't a revenue generator, but we're adequately covering our costs and all the other areas that are outlined here?
We definitely believe it's getting us closer than where we've been before. So we're comfortable with those that are presented. Yes.
Okay.
How about the land use plan change? That didn't change.
Yeah, that's not really a big difference. And maybe with the comp plan, the land use, that's really more of a technical, but it's done at the same time as a zoning change. Is generally when a zoning change goes from like residential to commercial, and then the underlying land use change, but it's done in conjunction at the same time with the zoning. So it's usually not a standalone, it's in conjunction with zoning.
Any further discussion? Your motion to consider this article, this ordinance excluding section 2 short-term rentals.
Are we good with making this effective today, or do y'all want to push all of this non-section 2 items to January 1st?
I didn't really see that there's such a great change on these, and those are for development, and of course, they figure that into their cost. So I don't have a real problem. I do want the transparency to give everybody an opportunity, but most of your developers more than likely are out of town.
And is it easier to cut it over January 1st just for?
I would recommend January 1st on these, everything. Okay.
Rachel, is there after publication of 10 days, is there any kind of delay we need to put on the effective date for this?
Yeah, I would just suggest the draft so that it's the effective date of January 1st, if that's what council wishes to decide.
Okay, will you entertain a motion?
Yes.
I move that we approve ordinance number 2023-20 minus section 2 with an effective date of January 1st, 2024.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
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 All opposed? Motion carries 4-0. Moving on to 7B, consider the approval of resolution 2023-18R casting votes for the Gillespie Central Appraisal District Board of Directors for 2024-25 terms. Button.
I believe Shelley's going to handle this item there. Let me get the PowerPoint up here.
Put together a small PowerPoint that will explain
put together a small PowerPoint to help explain how different options you have to cast your votes.
My understanding what there are six people and we need a vote on 5.
Correct. So on October the 3rd, 2023, City Council approved a resolution where you nominated 5 candidates to the Board of Directors. And I've listed those 5 candidates here. Tim Dooley was serving as a member and chose not to serve another term, so the City Council nominated Graham Pearson. So the votes are broken down by percentages from the 2022 tax levy. And you can see the city of Fredericksburg has 318 votes. So there are currently 6 candidates, and I've listed them for you here. So to cast your votes, the city can cast up to 5 votes. The city council can divide up their 318 votes, and I gave you an example there of 4 candidates can get 63 votes and 1 candidate can get 66 votes, or the city council can cast all 318 votes for 1 candidate, or you can come up with any other kind of combination you want that would total 318 votes. The only thing that you will need to do is to amend the resolution because the ballot is your Exhibit A. So you'll have to amend the resolution to include how you want to cast your vote.
I know we can't divide that equally between 5, but that's kind of my idea is to just spread it out on 5.
Shelley, I'm sorry if you said this, but why are there 6 candidates and we can only vote for 5?
I think the DOS, I'm not sure who nominated someone. Pete Gaines was nominated by another entity. And so there's only 5 board members, so that's why you can only vote for 5.
So there are 4 voting council members here today. So is this effectively, we have 80 votes each and we can advertise?
Get the majority, so.
No, I think it's as a body, we have 318.
Right.
We can't individually have.
We could put all our votes for Graham, which is our appointee.
We have a whopping 13% of this, so let's choose wisely.
Yeah, I know.
It's commanding. But I'll just, I don't know if it's appropriate to advocate but Graham has had leadership on the council in the past. He's run a software company, extensive management experience. I also think Jill Tabor has an extensive amount of management experience as well. So those are 2 candidates I think would be well served. Our community would be well served.
So are you making a motion that we cast all our votes for Graham? I mean, I would.
I just made a comment.
Okay, well, I'd like to
Well, hang on, we're not through discussing.
Well, you can ask for discussion after I make the motion.
I'd like to continue to discuss. Thank you. Is Todd, Don Davis, and James currently on the board?
And Jill.
Yeah.
And Jill.
Jill
Okay.
was our nominee last time.
Last time. Okay.
The only name that has changed that was on the board is Graham Pearson. It used to be Tim Dooley.
Okay.
He was here.
So Pete Ganis is on the board? No, he's not on the board. Okay. Thank you.
Jill Tabor was appointed when Bartell left, right, Nicole?
She's currently serving.
Todd replaced me.
I personally wouldn't mind spreading our vote to the 5, excluding Pete Ganis.
That's fine.
And we can add, maybe give Graham a nod since he's our nominee. He can have the 66. Everyone else gets 63. Support you, Graham.
Well, I would make that motion that we spread our 63 votes between the 4 candidates and add the 66 votes for Graham Pearson.
The 4 candidates being everyone but Pete, correct?
I'm sorry.
You said the 4 candidates. Do you mean Bierschwal, Davis,
You're right.
McAfee,
It's
Tabor?
yeah, the 4, which would be the ones that are placely in on the board,
Okay.
with the new one being Graham Pearson. Is that correct? Yeah, that's Don Davis. That they've got Don David, but it's Don Davis.
Is that sufficient, Shelley? For a motion?
Okay, I have a motion.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes.
Thank you, Tim.
We'll move on to item 8, city manager's report. What?
Okay, Mayor, Council, let me get this pulled up right quick. I have a lot to cover today. I'll try to get through this fairly quickly and answer any questions that you might have. This has been a very well-received update. I've been using it not only for this meeting, but coffee with the city manager. I cover a lot of this at town hall meetings. I have people emailing me and asking questions. You know, I was just mentioning to one of the council members the other day that I can remember 5 years ago, coffee with the city manager, when there were some questions about sales tax revenues, and we had to get back to that person. And now that sort of thing is top of mind for city staff and city council as well as the public. So jumping right in again, I'm going to touch on development. I have a brief project update that I'll give. I'll cover some financial information, and then I have a few miscellaneous updates to give. Comprehensive plan, and Anna, I didn't know if you might want to touch on a few of these dates just quickly.
So we met last week with the CPAC, the advisory committee, to go over the Parks Master Plan. So that's back at Half and Associates for their final draft. And we will be meeting with the CPAC on December 12th to review the final draft of the comprehensive plan. And so we'll be looking to you to set up a joint meeting with P&Z in January. So you can review that together. And the draft will be available during that time. So we'll have about a month for both drafts to be on the website, printed at City Hall, and we're still tweaking our engagement with the final document. These documents are hard for staff, much less the average citizen, to get through. So how we want to break that up for survey responses, but that'll be open for about a month, and then coming to you in February, P&Z separately, and council ultimately for adoption.
Okay, thank you, Anna. Jumping into development activity, and this is a comparison 2020 through 2023. Site plans, zoning, and plats. Again, I talk about this a lot. We talk about this a lot. The increase in activity in that 2020, 2021, 22 time frame, and we're starting to come down off of that just a little bit. You can see that trend. Commercial building permits, and I'll talk about residential building permits here in just a little bit, but you can see if you drew a line across the middle right there, we're just about average in terms of numbers, annual numbers, again, 2014 through present.
Then I'm sorry, can you go back one?
Sure.
I'm just curious because I can't get through a meeting without dinging the state legislature. I wonder
Sure.
if some of this is due to the annexation changes, because with some of the limits that have been put on cities and our ability to annex, I mean, we're dealing with maybe a lower amount of acreage overall. I mean, is that something that's brought up a lot?
I mean, if we had looked at the trajectory we were on and the annexation plan that we were following until we were cut off, yes, I would say we would probably have more development in the pipeline. But since that got cut off, yeah, now it's voluntary, and we've got a few that are being requested at this time, but it's definitely slowed it down.
Didn't that law go into effect 2019. Am I wrong there?
There were some change. Yes, the big annexation change was the previous legislative session. Yes.
But then this past session, what was done to limit the city's ability to annex, or a city would have to pull back annexation if it hadn't been completed, they'd have to pull back services. Right? That was 2023 mostly.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
Yes.
That's right.
But in 2019, we were able to put together an annexation plan that included several large parcels that we could go ahead and annex even after the 2019 state legislature.
Well, interest rates, that's the biggest.
Right. That all of those factors come into play. Okay, moving on to commercial projects under construction. Of course, we have the middle school under construction, other projects, notable projects. The immigrant expect CO sometime this year. Is that still valid, Anna?
Yes.
Albert Hotel, of course, under construction again, new contractor. I'm not going to throw out a completion date there. I think various stages of that are going to open at different times, but certainly sometime well into next year.
Clinton, that's accurate. We met with the developer last week. They are looking to open up the main street. The historic properties will be opening before the main hotel. So we'll see more. Those cones should be pulled back to just in front of the new portion soon. So there is progress being made.
And let's look through here. Of course, the HTO just right down the street here is under construction. That's something new. The Warner Warehouse is complete. That entire area is transforming right there. And you can see some of the other commercial building projects that are happening.
So the surgery center is back on?
Anna, can you answer that question?
I guess they haven't started. I think they're having a lot of state regulations to go under as well. So, but we've issued the building permit.
Okay, on the residential side, and I throw this number out all the time in terms of lots on the ground, we have 1,228 total lots. That number has been the same in the last number of updates that I've given. And again, as we've talked about water throughout the summer, we always tie water to new construction, specifically single-family residential construction. As you can see right here, we're up just a little bit from the average line, probably, but we typically issue somewhere between 50 and 65, roughly, building permits for single-family residential homes each year, maybe 70. And again, that spike that we saw when we saw a lot of activity in that 2020, 2021 time frame.
But can you go back to the previous slide? On the Allstott phase 1 and 2, any movement on phase 1 being sold?
I believe it's still on the market.
Still on the, okay.
Did you mention water? Have you gotten any kind of latest updates? I assume we're improving.
Yes, sir. I have those updates coming up in just a couple of slides. Okay, multifamily under construction, and again, this number moves just a little bit. 543 units under construction. Currently, as you can see right here, this number has increased from 70 at the last update to 110, so we're starting to see some of those being completed, while at the same time, we have more approved for construction. So this bottom line figure right here, 1303, is up just a little bit from last time. But that's the breakdown. Again, about a little bit over half either completed or under construction, and about that many approved for construction.
So we're the 650 that haven't started.
And again, let's see if I can go back, and Anna, you might touch on.
Yes, Keller Oaks is one.
Right.
Verandas down at Frieden was a large one, 305 units that haven't started. The Botanica on Friendship Lane and Seiko. And then what's added here at the very bottom is the Alora May condos. Those are the new condominiums on Friendship. So we've added that to approved but not started.
Okay, moving on to Public Works projects. Again, East Main Street Water Line project. This project has been completed. TxDOT will be doing a full mill and overlay, including this section sometime after April next year, after the eclipse next year.
Well, there's two phases of that project. So they will come in and do some repair work that was scheduled for the end of this year. We're still waiting on a definitive timeline from TxDOT. And then the full mill and overlay is scheduled for April of next year. It will be night work, so that will help a little, but they're aware that's a busy time of year for the city.
They always schedule either during tourist season or some event.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Okay, moving on, and I'll have Garrett give an update on the South Plano Shared Use Bridge project.
Yes, so we are working closely with the contractor. We've had a number of site visits. Basically, the construction of this project should only take about a month or 6 weeks. The long lead time is the bridge itself. We've talked to the manufacturer. Right now, that's about 5 months. So we're looking at probably May of next year for construction. But everything's moving along well. TxDOT has approved everything, so we are good to go on that project.
Will the bridge come in one piece?
Yes. Actually, there's two pieces of it.
Okay.
So everything will be constructed, and they'll just set the bridge down on the pilings, and that's that.
Wow. That'll be something to watch.
I think the council should be the first to walk across it. What do you think? Okay, so water supply update. Again, this is a look at our Canal well field, which is about 3 or 4 miles out, 290 east. Just recently constructed a storage tank, pump station, and water line into town from this particular well field. But as you can see, we have rebounded to just a little bit better than where we were in this well field last year. I'm going to show you this graph and another one from our old San Antonio Road well field that looks very similar, but this is mainly due to not much outdoor watering happening the last month or so. We see that rebound is not specifically tied to rainfall. We say this all the time too. For a rainfall event, if you get an inch of rain, we recharge about 4% of that into the aquifer generally, and it takes about 10 months for that water to get there. So when we look at that real intensive early spring, summertime usage, if you back that up about 10 months, that's about when we need to be getting the rains. That's exactly when we didn't get the rains this year. So I expect these levels to go back down as we get into the spring season, but hopefully level out as we get into those summer months again. We'll start to see a little bit more of that recharge. But doing a little bit better in terms of water surface elevation in this particular well field. This is the old San Antonio Road. Again, if you back up to December of last year, you can see we were just below 84 feet below the surface, and we are currently a little bit lower than that, probably about 3 or 4 feet lower than that. This well field typically rebounds a little bit more slowly. Pedernales River is a little bit closer to the Canal well field generally. It's a little bit more under the influence of the river.
So if we have a wetter winter as predicted, then that really doesn't help us in the summertime.
It would help as we get toward the end of the summer. It all helps, but in terms of that recharge that you could actually see, we really needed to start seeing some of those rains in August, September. Just as a reminder, in July and August combined, we had 1/10 of an inch of rainfall total. But I'm optimistic that the weather patterns are going to change. We're going to continue to get rain, hopefully through the fall into spring next year. That will certainly help. It doesn't help our water revenues, but it will definitely help the I'll take water over money in the bank and any single day. Okay, moving to parks, and we wanted to just get these projects up in front of the council as a reminder. We have Marketplace renovations, the project on the corner that will be wrapping up next month. We have some equipment you can see, Parks Master Plan. We've moved a little bit of funding into FY24 for the completion of that. The Marketplace restroom renovations, waiting on estimates there. Pioneer Pavilion renovations, and again, you can remember some of the vivid pictures you saw there. 150,000, waiting on estimates, working on estimates. Old Fair Park storage out of the park, so we don't have to move equipment back and forth from the warehouse. Working on estimates there as well. The restroom replacement at Lady Bird Johnson Park. This is the main restroom in the middle. Order was placed. It should be installed mid-year next year. Marketplace storage expansion, another project on the square, again, working on estimates there. So we'll continue to bring some of these back to the council for your approval and update you as we move forward.
And before we go off this slide, just wanted to remind us of what was cut from the budget. We've lost a groundsmaster, $4,500, batting cages and storage renovations, sand volleyball renovations, bin track, and 2 golf carts, totaling $368,000 that will not be spent on our parks this year.
Clinton, back to the market plot renovation piece, some of the pavers that was damaged during Oktoberfest, have we resolved payment and restoration of those?
Yes, we have. There was about between $9,000 and $10,000 worth of damage done. Those pavers will be replaced. I don't have a schedule on that at this time.
And what about the playground area that quite a bit of damage around that soft padding material for kids?
Right. We're still working with the manufacturer to get a recommendation on how to address that issue.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And those costs will be taken care of by us and then reimbursed by, or are we going to get this reimbursed or no?
Right. Oktoberfest will pay for half of the pavers. The city's paying the other half. It's currently the agreement.
Why not the whole thing?
Yeah.
I'm just curious because
I
I
would
thought they were
ask-
going to pay the whole thing.
I would ask why as well.
Right. I can try to get an answer why that was not a decision that I made. That was not a decision city staff made.
More to come on that because
So is
I
that
thought the
it?
agreement was to pay.
So is that it?
Well, it's not done yet. I can give the council an update on that next time around, or I get you a little bit more detail on that decision.
I think we would strongly encourage looking at that again and overturning that decision.
Yes,
Is
sir.
that a Market Plots Redevelopment Commission decision?
And I think the reason for that, there may have been some damage to the pavers done prior to that event that was existing when we had Oktoberfest this year. Oktoberfest definitely did have a significant impact on the square. We had pavers that were stained with grease that could not be cleaned, have to be replaced. Forklifts that caused pavers to be cracked and broken. A lot of that sort of thing. But I think the reasoning was probably the fact that we couldn't prove that event caused all of the damage when we did a full analysis of the surface out there. But I can give council a lot more detail on that.
And just to add to that a little, some of that damage was over by the new annex. So it was more related to the ongoing construction in that area. There were some trench failures where some utilities weren't properly backfilled.
Okay, thanks for the clarification.
Okay, moving on to our special event schedule in November. Of course, tonight we have the Nights of Lights begins. So for those of you that would like to come out, that's a really good event. Bear the winds tonight, bring a jacket. But we'll kick off the real season of lights tonight, turning everything on. And happy Thanksgiving, everyone. Okay, moving on to our financial update. And I'm going to have Krista cover this first slide. And Krista, can you see this, or let me turn this for you?
All right. Just before I get started, I just wanted to let you know that the dashboards on OpenGov for City Council are all updated with the September information. And we're also working on the printed council reports, and you should be getting those through your email, hopefully before the end of this, before our Thanksgiving break. But reviewing, just a high-level review of what you're seeing on that slide. We came in for fiscal year 2023 higher in revenues than we had budgeted, and we came in expenses lower than budgeted. So you'll see that we're 100 for general fund, we're at 107% of revenues and only 89% of budgeted expenses. And then on the enterprise funds, about the same, 108% of revenue and 92% of expenses. And just I was jotting down some of the variances. So we had revenue increases in sales tax, just a little bit, interest income, development services fees, landfill, electric, EMS revenues, and drainage, and also tourism came in a little bit higher because of interest revenue. And then those expense savings, they basically fell in personnel savings because of being short-staffed, and also capital improvements, basically water and stormwater. Any questions?
Was that savings due to us not ordering the equipment that we had intended to order?
A lot of it is the capital for water, and those projects have been rebudgeted in 2024.
Okay.
You have a question, Randy?
Looking at the Food and Wine Fest, I don't want to go down a rabbit hole here, but our total expenditure, if I'm reading, is $262K roughly. Am I reading it right?
Yes, food and wine typically, because the timing of expenses, they'll show a bigger loss in the fiscal year than they do in a calendar year.
Okay, and then we reconcile once.
Yes.
All right, thank you.
Is there a slide that's going to show the water revenues?
Yes.
That you've done past the Galway.
Yep.
Thanks.
Okay, moving on to sales tax. When we look at October, and again, we're looking at the red line, they're just pretty close to the top. As you can see, we're down just a little bit. Well, first of all, FY 2024 actuals were down 3.2% so far from 2023. Our FY 23 actuals were up 5.2% over 2022. And when you look at the trend, we have increased fairly significantly. Again, when you look at the development slides, you can tell the economy was doing really good back then. COVID, very busy. We saw this huge increase, 22 into 23. But as you see in FY 24, October compared to 23, 22, and 21, we're starting to come back down just a little bit. The same with the November numbers. We're trending down just a little bit. Krista, remind me what we projected in terms of sales tax revenues in the budget.
So we increased it just about a little over 1%. So we're
About
budgeted
1%.
at $9 million for
Okay.
2024.
And currently we're trending down 3.2%.
And that lags again. There's a 2-month lag. Is that right? Okay. Because I know with Oktoberfest, again, some of the numbers we talked about, I've been told we went from 27 to 34,000. I think was total attendees at that. I'm just curious what that bubble looks like.
Right. And again, if you generally look at October through December, even January, we don't see a huge jump in revenues. What was the year we didn't have Oktoberfest? Was it 21? That line is very similar to the other lines you see there. So again, that's not necessarily reflected in that direct inject into sales tax dollars that we can see.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, property tax collected, actual 5.97 with a budget of 5.95. And again, you can see the comparison 2020 through 2023 right there. That's the property tax, the M&O, and the INS broken out. And again, we have very little debt. Okay. Start with electric revenues here. And the blue line represents the 2024 data compared to the red 23 data and green 22 data. You can see on the electric residential sales, we're up just a little bit on both residential and commercial. Moving on to water. Again, this is very early in the year. It's not a very intensive watering time, so we're roughly average, a little bit below average, I would say, for this time of the year. And water sales on the residential side, about where we need to be on the commercial side. This is something that we'll take a close look at every month moving forward as we get into or past January into the spring of next year. Did you have any specific questions, Emily, about water revenues or?
No, just looking how it's tracking and
Right.
seeing toward conservation if we've hit that 20%. Hard.
Right.
Month by month, it's hard, but year over year.
We did get close the first couple of months, and I think people responded to their yards, and a lot of trees dying, and we did see an increase, a little bit beyond. But as you can see, the 2023 line, and that went into effect in April. You can see that it is consistently April, May, June, July below last year's average. But again, we get into August, 400ths of an inch of rain in August and 26 days over 100 degrees. I mean, just unheard of for this part of the region. But generally, it's down a little bit. Okay, and again, this is just a breakdown of what our property tax rate has been since 2016. The average home price of $450, that's $743. That breaks down to $62 a month. Okay, any questions on financial update? Moving on to police department, and as you can see, the activity is definitely picking up. This is calls for service. You can see how we compare October to September and August. A lot of special events coming in with 1,702 total calls for service. This is number of arrests. Again, you can see that trend going up from August, September. Warnings versus citations. Just a breakdown. And then finally, traffic accidents. We do have our police chief here if you have any questions for him specifically. Okay, moving on to the fire EMS report. Again, we're up again for the month of October. This is October data with 387 total incidents. In terms of daily, we had an average of 12, minimum of 4, 21 in one day around the 11th, it looks like, of October.
Majority of these are EMS.
Right. I'll show that breakdown here too. So this is how we compare. These numbers compare to previous months starting January. You can see that was the next highest month at 374, and we've generally been trending up since June, where we had 353. Again, up October to 387. So as we talk about the needs of fire EMS, not only the employees,
We are needing equipment, new ambulances, new fire apparatus, and so forth. We'll continue to watch this line right here, but as Chief Bizzle indicated last time, this number appears to be, consistently trending up. Okay, here's the breakdown, Bobby, and the majority of our calls are medical related. As you can see, Med 1, 2, 3, and 4 make up the bulk of the responses. And breaking that down into more of a heat map, this has changed just a little bit in terms of the days where we're seeing the most activity. In October, it looks like Thursday and Friday.
But can you go back to that's fine. You've got emergency one. Is that engine one?
Yes.
That doesn't necessarily mean that was all fire related. It could also be EMS.
Right. If we have an accident anywhere in town, we typically send that unit out with a crew. A lot of times it acts as a barrier. So you can tie that, to traffic accidents. So we talked about transfers. Our transfers are up just a little bit, but trending down. Generally, since August, these should continue to trend down as we're able to handle more of those patients here locally. Okay, the brush fire season this year, again, thankfully, we didn't have a lot of large brush fires, but you can see the numbers were up in that August-September timeframe. And then our heat map, this is a breakdown between fire and EMS. Most of the calls inside the city are EMS related. You can see that we do respond to both out in the county, but specific fire calls you can see right there. This is also very interesting when we talk about our response from Fredericksburg Fire EMS out into the county, mutual aid given, mutual aid received. Again, I've mentioned this last time. When we go out west in the county toward Harper, we typically give aid to that area. When we go out 290, the Stonewall Fire Department is very responsive. They typically assist us in aiding in incidents out in that area, that part of the county. Again, this is the heat map. Most of the activity going on within the city limits. Okay, any question about fire EMS update? Okay, city department openings, and I think the last time I presented this, we had 16 positions. We have 12 open positions now. You can see that we have 2 in fire EMS, 3 in PD, crew worker and electrician in our water department. We've had our staff engineer position posted for going on 8 months now. I think we've had maybe one applicant. Any kind of professional positions like that, it's very difficult to attract those type of staff to the organization. Street department heavy equipment specialist. We have had just a little bit of movement out on our development services position, senior planner and historic preservation officer. Hopefully some good news to come on that in the near future. And then you can see sanitation and vegetation management. Recently filled positions, we have an apprentice arborist and vegetation management, correct? And a recent promotion in our water department, Quentin Mellering to crew chief in the water department. Okay, and wanted to give you just a brief update on some landscape improvements that have recently been completed at the golf course. This is looking at the back of the pro shop. This area was weeds and beat down grass, a lot of foot traffic through there. This was professionally done by a local landscape company. Looks very good. It complements a lot of the other xeriscape improvements that have been made. You can see in the background. That's the scoreboard in the background. That was the first area that they tackled. And then finally, this new area right here. And I will say that this was paid for from proceeds from the golf course, with the exception of the clock, was donated by a local individual who plays golf every day. I'm not going to name his name. Walks and plays golf every day, and has actually contributed quite a bit beyond this to the golf course. Okay, and finally, I wanted to give an update, just a brief update on the Fredericksburg Citizen University. So far, we have 10 applicants. And again, we're looking for 15 to 20 for that roughly 11-month class that will start in January. And Shelley, help me out with the deadline for applications.
December the 13th.
So December 13th. So we'll give an update to the council, second meeting in December, after we receive all of the applications, and that will likely be something we may get your input on in terms of those who are participating. But it's been very well received. Run into a couple of people at the grocery store that have asked me about it, and town halls and so forth. So some of the names that I see on the list here are some people that I've met getting out in the community. That concludes my report. I'd be happy to answer any other questions you may have.
Appreciate the time and effort and energy you put into this, and I think this is well received, as you mentioned at the coffee with city manager and town hall. So it's a great blueprint for communicating to our citizens. Thank you.
Well, I give full credit to my staff. They put this report together and they make my job very easy. So all the credit to them.
Any other comments? Okay, we'll move on to items for future agenda.
Okay, Mayor Council, coming up on December 5th, we have a speed limit change on Tybydale down to 50 miles per hour. Again, this is something that's been mentioned at a number of different events. It's something that we put on TxDOT's radar a little bit over a year ago. And help me out with the limits here, Garrett. It's going to be from 16 South West to
the city limits.
To the city
there
limits.
At Live Oak Creek.
Okay. And again, this is a development corridor. We have backwoods going in there, a lot of storage, small businesses going in. There's a lot of cement trucks pulling out there. There's been some redevelopment. So as there's more traffic there, TxDOT will continue to lower that speed limit in this area. We have the evaluation of our municipal judge. And then we have a couple of items that are not on the list, including a resolution, consideration of a resolution for the creation of a police foundation fund. And then also a police department mutual aid agreement between the city of Fredericksburg, Kerrville, and Bernie that we'll be bringing back to you.
Clinton, the police foundation, is the legal ease, has that been completed at this point?
Yes, it has.
Okay, so we're in good shape there.
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you.
And again, we wanted to bring about these items to the council so that you have plenty of time to read through, ask questions, get a really good understanding of what this means for the city of Fredericksburg, and help us make that decision. Also wanted to point out that we do have a special meeting. We have it listed as a council workshop, but it will be a special meeting work session coming up December 18th at noon in the fire training room. This will be the one item agenda where we discuss the composition and other items regarding the 2025 Food and Wine Fest event that we'll begin planning in the next couple of months. And with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions?
A couple of these future agenda items are, they say November or December. But are we good on tracking those? I'm looking at the John Klein meeting room.
I think the Parks Department is waiting until it gets closer to being finished.
Anything else? Okay, this meeting is adjourned.